WhatsApp has released this recent privacy policy. It has popularized the thought of thinking about alternatives and thinking about why, where WhatsApp is troubling the users and how you should put your data privacy first, foremost before any choices. So today we're going to understand what is really happening. What does the new data privacy policies of WhatsApp means? How does that affect you as a direct user of WhatsApp? And what are the alternatives you can use? And what are the checks you need to have before shifting to another alternative? So today we have Ram, a free software activist, who's going to help us understand what all we need to know about WhatsApp and how all need to shift to an alternative. What is the technical background? What is the political understanding we should need to have? And this session is being held on Chikru's product Classmeet, a fully free software video conferencing platform called Classmeet. And thanks, Chigru Collab, for having this session today. So yeah, Ram, let's start. So what are the agendas? Let me just read out the agendas for today. Yeah. Okay. I think Ram, you can take on the mic and talk about the agendas and.
I give you a presenter, right? So you can.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's so today. So people who are on the live stream on the YouTube, you can directly put your questions or anything you want to say on the chat. I will be constantly looking at there and ask any question to the speaker here. And some people who are on the Classmeet can directly again use the chat here to ask any question. Whoever whoever doesn't want to talk, please mute yourself and put your don't on your camera. If you have any questions, we will give you time so that it doesn't break randomly. Okay. So today what we're going to basically do is understand WhatsApp and its privacy policy. And it's me and Ram here. To give a brief introduction of myself, I am also a free software activist. I'm also passionate about understanding how free software can work for people in day-to-day life, and then we'll have open question and answer session. Okay. Then some of the basic topics or basic concepts we're going to talk around is mostly we'll cover history of WhatsApp and how it has changed toward the years from beginning, how it has changed and how it has formed itself right now. What are the changes in its new privacy policy? Should we worry about Facebook? Now it's famous that WhatsApp is now a Facebook company, and that is the origin of so many discussions and interactions we are having. And then what are the alternatives we have? So yeah, Ram, it's all to you now.
Thanks, Rachika. So what we will do is we'll quickly try to understand some background about WhatsApp and what WhatsApp has been doing. And we'll try to address that very important question of, is it now that WhatsApp has changed, or, is this the point of fear from now on, or what is it, right? So let's try to understand these aspects of things. But before we go there, I think it's important for us to understand certain history of WhatsApp. The first thing is usual statistical timelines. WhatsApp was found in the year 2008 in California, US. And in 2014 is when WhatsApp got acquired for $19 billion by Facebook, which is a very significant move. And what's important to understand is how 2014 happened. So in 2014, when Facebook acquired WhatsApp, the most important promise that Facebook did to all of its users was the fact that it will never share any kind of data to Facebook, right? That was the initial promise, and WhatsApp stood by it until 2016. 2016 in April is when the Signal encryption protocol, right? Signal, many of you may know as a product, as a messaging app. But what Signal started off as is as an encryption protocol, right? What an encryption protocol is, how encryption happens, how are the keys established, how do we ensure that messages leaving my devices are encrypted. So this is roughly how the protocol itself got established, and eventually, because of the beauty of its cryptography, Signal became the de facto standard of instant messaging encryption. Right? Many companies started adopting to Signal's encryption protocol, and it was in April 2016 when Signal worked with WhatsApp and implemented end-to-end encryption in WhatsApp. It's also important for us to understand that until this point, until April 2016, WhatsApp did not have end-to-end encryption at all. Right from 2008 to 2016, WhatsApp was fully unencrypted. We only purely went by the privacy policy and the promises made by WhatsApp that ensured that we will not be sharing that any data on this thing, right? And it was in August 2016 when WhatsApp made its first announcement that from now on, WhatsApp is going to be sharing data with Facebook, right? So this whole fear that we are all talking about right now, that WhatsApp has suddenly started sharing this data with Facebook, is not necessarily true, because WhatsApp started sharing our personal information way back in August 2016. There were a couple of complexities that WhatsApp brought in 2016. One, it told if you opt out of it, we will not share your phone number. So there were some of these nitty-gritties of choice that was given, but it was majorly that irrespective of your choice, irrespective of your consent, we will be sharing all of the data with Facebook. And again, let me reiterate here. When I mean share data with Facebook, I do not mean our messaging data. What I mean is everything else other than the messages. Okay, we'll understand this over the course of the talk. Now, this was a privacy policy that WhatsApp wrote in April 2016, right, when the first privacy policy change. I've taken this from the WhatsApp's legal documents. This is the privacy policy, where they first mentioned what data are they going to be sharing with Facebook. And it's important for us to understand, especially these sections of this of the document, is you provide with us your mobile phone number that you create with your WhatsApp. You also share all of the numbers from your mobile address book on a regular basis, which means that every single time we added a new contact, and irrespective of that contact being on WhatsApp or not, we were consistently sharing all phone numbers with WhatsApp, including those of both users of our service and your other contacts, okay, which is very important for us to understand. What they also mentioned is you also confirm that you're authorized to provide us such numbers. What this statement is slightly a little more scary, primarily because even if we have to argue with WhatsApp that this is a privacy violation, we actually cannot, because we have taken the ownership and authorization to share all the phone numbers with others, right? Which is a little more scary because WhatsApp is no more liable. It's you and me who are liable to the whole thing. And apart from that, they also started picking information like my name, my profile picture, everyday status that I keep putting, all of this information. Apart from that, they also say we do not store your messages. So one important thing for us to understand is every time we send a message to WhatsApp, the message is encrypted on my phone. It is not encrypted on the server, it's encrypted on my phone. So which means the message that goes out of my device is an encrypted message. All right. Now, this message goes to the WhatsApp server, right? It's here. From here, it goes to the WhatsApp server. And before, for example, let's say send a message to Ruchika, until it reaches Ruchika, it will be in the WhatsApp server. Now, assuming Ruchika is not on the internet and she is offline. Now, what happens is until Ruchika comes online, the message will stay in the WhatsApp server. And the moment Ruchika is online, the message gets delivered to her, right? That's what the second clause specifically talks about. And what they're saying is if a user is not online for more than 30 days, we don't care about it. We just delete the message, right? We do not deliver such messages. And the last information is in case if you contact customer support and all the information, copies and everything that we give as a proof, which means in case if you're reporting an abuse, if you're reporting some account illegal or abusive of any sort, we are basically sharing the complete chat information with that account and the account details with WhatsApp. Now, the second thing is usage and log information, which basically means this specifically contains what IP address I'm coming from, what mobile device I'm coming from, which internet service provider am I using, what is my mobile network. WhatsApp, if you're using WhatsApp web, you would also see battery status. For example, if your mobile device goes less than 10%, your WhatsApp web will also give you an alert, right, saying, hey, your mobile device is probably out of charge, maybe you should plug it in and charge it up, etc. So, and here specifically, they also collect information, like we collect device location information if you use our location service features, such as when you choose to share your location with your contacts. There are a lot of contradictory statements in the whole privacy policy, because in one place they say we collect your location information, and in other places they say that your location is also end-to-end encrypted, right? So we cannot take any of thing from Facebook directly. We should always take it with a pinch of salt, which means it's important for us to understand the whole policy in a specific data context. And it's not always good to just read their privacy policy. It's also important for us to understand the terms, conditions, other legal documents, etc., to understand how every single data is used. Okay. And the beauty is they also, if you're using services that are web-based, which includes WhatsApp web especially, then they also set cookies. And Facebook historically has been known for tracking everything you do on your browser the moment they install their cookies on your site, right? So we can safely assume that the moment they say that we store cookies on your web browser, which means that the moment you open WhatsApp web on your device until the end, all of your Facebook, all of your browsing history is probably already with Facebook, right? Apart from that, they also track when you come online, when you go offline, when was you last seen, all of these information. Now, apart from that, the information that they also say is, in case if you're paying to WhatsApp, we track everything that relates to payments. They use Google Maps for their location services. So potentially every time you share location on WhatsApp, you also share your location with Google, with Facebook, with WhatsApp, with everyone, right? Not just with your friend. So this is how extensive and pervasive the whole privacy policy came about. And this is, mind you, the first time WhatsApp introduced its privacy policy, right? The first update to privacy policy was this. Now, what is very scary about this is in the whole data, right? In this whole privacy policy, they never talked about my message. It never talked about the message that I'm about to send. This is another very important service. What they're saying is, in case if you click share this link on WhatsApp or share this photo to my friend or anything, what they're basically saying is, if you use the WhatsApp share button on news services to share an information article with your WhatsApp, we collect to what contacts, what groups, what broadcast lists on our service you choose to send it. So basically what this basically means is, even if I'm sharing a link on WhatsApp, WhatsApp tries to track this link on who am I sending this link to, what groups, what broadcast lists, which individuals am I sending it to, what time am I sending it, how fast am I sending it. It tracks literally every single thing, right? So when we talk about personal information privacy in the context of WhatsApp, it was right from 2016 until now that everything was already tracked and everything was already shared with Facebook, right? You can go ahead and look at whatsapp.com/legal to get these privacy policy documents. And the moment you click on privacy policy, you also have in the top something called as archives. So if you click on it, you can choose which version of the privacy policy you want to read. And the privacy policy that I have taken as a reference is the August 2016's privacy policy, when the change came in. Very specifically, I think August 24th or 25th. Okay. Okay, so let's try to understand what is really changing now. Like, why is there suddenly a lot of noise that's being made? Why is it that suddenly everyone is talking about changing or moving out of WhatsApp is first thing is, if you're just using WhatsApp for your personal account, nothing is changing. How much ever data, a lot of data, which is that you're already sharing with Facebook, remains the same, right? You're not going to be sharing anything new with WhatsApp. But on the contrary, what has happened is WhatsApp has introduced two more new things. One is called WhatsApp Payments. The other is called WhatsApp Business, right? Now, both of this is something we already know. This is something that has already been rolled out. Now, the change that is coming is to both of these. Now, what the change is basically in terms of WhatsApp Business, what they're basically now saying is any messages, interactions, conversations, orders, purchases that you do to WhatsApp's business account, those things we will share with Facebook. Now, it's very important to understand here because WhatsApp promised end-to-end encryption in WhatsApp Business also. And now they're saying that all your orders, your payments, your product listings, your conversations is going to be shared with Facebook. The first question and the most important question that all of us should be asking is, what is stopping them from doing this on personal messages, right? If this is really the truth, if the fact is that they can read the messages, can they really read our personal chats also? So this only means two things. One, they can either read our personal messages, or two, there is no end-to-end encryption at all, right? So end-to-end encryption we know is there, we know is existent, primarily because it was Signal himself who came and implemented WhatsApp's end-to-end encryption. And then it was Signal that certified that, yes, we have verified that WhatsApp is using it. So we can believe that there is end-to-end encryption. So which basically means that the way they're going to read this message is something that is very crucial for us to understand from a technical perspective. Now, apart from this, the mere fact that that Facebook knows that I am interacting with this business, inquiring about this product, and I'm willing to do so much of payment, potentially just means that I am going to be a target of WhatsApp's or Facebook's targeted advertisements, which is going to be eventually evading my privacy long time. Okay. Now, the next important question that I think we should be asking is in terms of payment transactions. Now, in terms of payment transactions, the change that WhatsApp is bringing is, WhatsApp is now saying that we will now share with Facebook how much have you paid, to whom, at what time, in what context, for what product, and where was the product shipped, and the time of transaction, and your card details. Card details, I'm not saying, things like your card number, CVV, and everything else. But what they're basically saying is, was it a MasterCard, was it a Visa card, was it a RuPay, was it something else, right? All of this information. Now, this is equally scary because when you correlate your personal information, let's take, for example, I talk to Ruchika about 100 times a day, right? I send Ruchika about 100 messages in a day. And then I purchased, for example, let's say a product whose amount is X. And I am giving the shipping address again as Ruchika. So which obviously means that when I correlate this information, it is super obvious for Facebook to understand that there was probably special occasion for which I have been talking to Ruchika, and I chose to order a gift for Ruchika, which I sent to this shipping address, which is where Ruchika is existing or Ruchika is living. And the cost of the product is so much. It was ordered by me, whose card details are so much. Right, that's quite a lot of inference for Facebook to make, right? Facebook may not necessarily read what my message is, right? And now when Facebook goes back and looks at, what is the birth date of Ruchika, for example, or is it a festival of some sort? Then the moment Facebook understands this, it can correlate, okay, this year at this date at this time, Ram gifted Ruchika a small gift. Right? It's super easy. It's just a beautiful story that comes out. And that is how powerful, when all of these messages are put together, I don't even need to read your messages, mind you, here again, right? I am not reading any of your messages. I am purely just saying that just with what you're doing, I can infer so much, right? And this is with one conversation. Now imagine all of my conversations, all of my payments, all of my transactions, right? Facebook may not necessarily know what I'm talking, but Facebook for sure knows what I'm doing, what I like, who I like to talk to, who am I constantly talking with, what is my frequency of my conversations, right? Are any of them again available on Facebook? If so, what do they do on Facebook? They can draw a beautiful graph of everything that surrounds me and people around me, right? And potentially infer that, okay, this is what Ram probably is, right? And so the moment they infer that, it becomes super easy for them also to understand that, okay, if this is what Ram is, this is the bubble that Ram lives in, then I should potentially target product B, C, D to Ram so that Ram will like it, right? Because at the end of the day, Facebook is an advertisement company. Facebook is not a technology company. Facebook is not a good to be company in this world. Facebook is an advertisement company, and their business is targeted advertisements, right? So why are they doing all of this? Because they want to enhance their targeted advertisement systems. It's that simple. Now, I've talked to some parts of this, especially about metadata, right? Metadata is basically called data about data. Like the example I gave, I may not necessarily know what was a chat that happened between me and Ruchika, but the mere fact that I started talking to Ruchika at this time, I ended talking to Ruchika at this time, and right after ending, I ordered a product A of cost X, and I sent it to this shipping address. This whole thing is called metadata, right? And this metadata itself is so pervasive. There has been multiple reports where people say that I started messaging someone on WhatsApp and I got their Facebook friend request on my Facebook account, right? So there has been multiples of this example. So what basically I'm trying to tell here is metadata is probably not just some dummy data. It is actual real data, and it is as invasive to your privacy as your normal messaging data is. And the second problem with the whole process is there is no concept of a consent or a opt-out, right? You either agree and use a service, or they're just saying, please get out, right? It's that simple. That's how bluntly they're telling it right now. And this is again not new considering Facebook or WhatsApp, because even the 2016 August release, when they first started sharing this data, they told the same thing. They told you either use a service, agreeing to these terms, or please don't use the service and walk out, right? And the very important thing that we have to understand in this context is this long project that Facebook has been working on called the Facebook plus Instagram plus WhatsApp interoperability. Now, what is interoperability is basically saying that a WhatsApp user can talk to someone on a Facebook Messenger, right? And that is the interoperability they're saying. So what they're basically saying is to talk to someone on Facebook Messenger, you don't need to have a Facebook account. With your WhatsApp account, you can talk to this person. With your Messenger account, you can talk to someone on Instagram. With your Instagram account, you can talk to someone on WhatsApp. Right? This whole their Facebook products interoperability is something that Facebook has been focusing on right back from 2018, late 2018 to early 2019. Now, what they basically achieved at this point in time is they have achieved a complete interoperability, which is one of the biggest change that they're also going to be rolling out. Now, this is equally even more scarier, primarily for the fact that maybe WhatsApp is sharing less information, but the mere fact that Facebook Messenger and Instagram is not sharing so much of less information, and they track users way at least about 20, 30 times than what WhatsApp tracks, makes the whole process very scary, because we know that Facebook's Messenger and Instagram Messenger is something that Facebook can already read, right? So which means that if interoperability comes into the picture, and if I'm sending a message to someone on Facebook or Instagram, it means that my conversation is not end-to-end encrypted and it's actually public. Public, not necessarily, I mean, it's privately public, meaning Facebook can completely access the whole message, right? Again, here I'm not just talking about metadata, I'm also talking about actual data. And when I mean interoperability, I'm not just talking about message or chat interoperability. I'm also talking about e-commerce interoperability. I'm also talking about advertisements interoperability, right? Just by analyzing my WhatsApp's conversations and my metadata, Facebook and Instagram, if I'm also a user on Facebook and Instagram, they can target me with very specific advertisements and ensure that the right advertisements and the right messages are shown to me, which is extremely scary for any of us who care about privacy. And on top of that, the last and the most important information that we have to correlate is when we read the Facebook's quarter-on-quarter financials that they publish publicly. It's available on Facebook's website. This is a very beautiful number for us to understand that a user who is using any of the products of Facebook family of companies, which may include Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram, any of these, we generate about $6.76 of revenue just in Q3 of 2020, right? And if you have to take about $6.76 in Indian rupee, a dollar is roughly about 77, I think. So it's about 7 into 77, that's nearly about 450 rupees, right? And that's just in Q3 of 2020, right? Which means that in about a span of 3 months, average user on any of the Facebook family of products has generated a revenue of 450 rupees to Facebook. Now, where is 450 rupees of revenue coming from any of us, right? We didn't pay for Facebook, we didn't pay for Instagram, we didn't pay for WhatsApp, we didn't pay for any of this. And how is it that they're still generating 450 rupees out of me? Is a very fundamental question that we should ask. And when you look at that number back with these 3 points, and the amount of data that Facebook loves to collect from us and the amount of data WhatsApp loves to have from us, it directly points out that this 450 rupees comes by nothing other than targeted advertisements, by the amount of products that WhatsApp or Facebook is able to sell to all of us, and the amount of clicks, the likes, and everything that we are able to do. That is exactly what is transforming this 450 rupees from each of us to Facebook, right? And that's roughly how the whole thing is. And that is what I wanted to tell in terms of the whole new change. I think I'll now let Ruchika take over.
Yeah, so right. It makes sense, right? So before even Facebook got integrated, got WhatsApp, it was all that we just doing messaging. It was you message another person. But slowly we saw a lot of features like status. Now we have WhatsApp Business, we have Pay. It's a question to me like, from when did we start expecting a messaging app to do a lot other than messaging? So that shows what Facebook actually needs from us. It wants to know the day-to-day life around us. And now that they have integrated a lot of features like that, they know a 360-degree view of us. So it's obviously scary what Facebook expects from us, right? So it's a tactics of product design where it hooks the user into it. So maybe someone who's tried hard to migrate from WhatsApp to another alternative, they might not stay there because they again expect how WhatsApp is working. I want this app to work like WhatsApp. It's a fault of Facebook that it has introduced a lot of, I would say, unnecessary features and kept us hooked to it all the time. So that shows that how that's exactly clear how what Facebook is earning out of us. So the main question ever anyone can ask you is like, okay, now you told me that WhatsApp is selling me using a lot of data of mine. So and I am not able to find any. What are the alternatives for it? In short, what can you say? What are the popular alternatives where I can get at least a very decent UI similarity?
There are two alternatives I can suggest, Ruchika. One is Signal, I'll probably write on top, which I think most of us already know. The other alternative that I would suggest is Matrix.
Okay, yeah, Signal is right now in the news. Like, I was wondering how, out of any other alternatives, Signal has started to emerge in a competition with WhatsApp.
That's a pretty interesting question. Signal is extremely similar to WhatsApp in many senses, right? I'm not talking in terms of data pervasiveness or the UI adherence, but generally as a process. Like for example, I am a common user who was exposed to WhatsApp. Now I'm looking for, I mean, I'm not a technologically savvy user. I'm just a normal mobile phone user who just got exposed to WhatsApp. And I've been using, let's say, WhatsApp for maybe 3, 4 years, right? And that's all my technology knowledge is, right? Now, Signal was a very comfortable choice. One, because the registration process, the messaging process, the UI in which the whole thing was designed was extremely similar, right? What did you do in WhatsApp? You will come in, you will enter your phone number, there will be an OTP. You enter the OTP, and once that is done, you have created an account in WhatsApp. You go search for your friends on WhatsApp and you start messaging, typing, chatting, whatever. Signal works exactly the same way. You install the Signal app, you give your phone number, it sends you an OTP, give the OTP, go find your friends, start chatting. Now, apart from that, the reason for the spike, right, the huge spike that you're seeing is thanks to some of the social media giants, people like Elon Musk, people like Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey, and other people. The moment this new WhatsApp's privacy policy started coming, and when there's like a huge outcry happening amongst people, it was people like these who came out and started telling people use Signal, right? And when it comes from people with such big amount of followers, people with such a big voice, and suddenly people started believing that okay, probably Signal is my right alternative. That's just how Signal got in. But apart from that, it's important for us to understand that when we say end-to-end encryption in WhatsApp, it's basically the same encryption algorithm that Signal uses, right? It was in fact Signal's encryption algorithm that WhatsApp implemented. So in terms of encryption, end-to-end encryption, there is no difference between WhatsApp and Signal. And in fact, Signal is better in multiple ways because one, it does not collect any metadata. It does not store any of these metadata. And there has been court cases in the US where people have asked saying Signal to submit all the data it has. And Signal has told that, look, I don't have any information. You can give me a phone number. I can tell you if that phone number is using Signal or not. And if they're using Signal, what was the last time they were seen online? Beyond this, I don't necessarily have any other information, right? Which is very good from a privacy perspective because it very clearly establishes the fact that Signal is not interested in any of the other information. And on top of that, it's also important to understand that Signal is a fully free software, which means that you can use Signal, you can read the source code of Signal, you can understand how Signal works, you can do all of it, right? So unlike WhatsApp, which is a fully closed software where you don't understand what it really does, Signal is a fully free software where everything is open, it is developed in the open, which anybody can use to understand, see how it works. But generally it is two reasons that Signal got picked up. One is because of the big social media giants who posted about it, and two, because the whole interface was extremely similar to WhatsApp.
Okay, so maybe in short, it was like Signal is not collecting data, our data yet, and we never know what happens. So anyway, so what is Matrix here? Or how is difference in Matrix and Signal?
Matrix is a decentralized, federated instant messaging. It's exactly the same as Signal or WhatsApp, except that there's no central server. It's a decentralized, federated system.
Right. Okay. Technical heavy words, decentralized, centralized. So how can you explain that in a very simple terms, centralized and decentralized?
Okay. So centralized, the way we will have to understand is, let's say, let's take Signal as an example itself for centralized, right? So this is Signal server. I'm sorry. So this is Signal server, and let's say this is user A, and this is user B, right? And now let's say user A wants to talk to user B. Now in a centralized system, the way things work is Once you send a message, the message goes to this central server, and the central server finds out where this user B is and sends the message to this user B. Right? And it's vice versa. When user B sends the message, it again goes to the central server and it again reaches user A. Right? This is roughly how a centralized system works. Now let's understand the decentralized federated system. Decentralized federated system works a little different. Right? Now let's say there is server A, server B, server C. Right? In a purely decentralized system, if I as a user needs to talk to someone here, then I need to create an account here. Right? Now let's say there are many users here. Now let's say I want to talk to this user here. Now, and this server could either be managed by a community, by another company, or you may be running your own server. The idea of decentralized is there's no central point of failure, but there are multiple, servers that's running which can transmit messages. But when we take only a decentralized system, the problem is if I have to talk to this user, as a user, I have to create an account in this server and talk to this user. Right? Now, if I have to talk to this user, I again have to come here and create an account in this server again and talk to this user. Right? This is what we call as account bombing. Account bombing basically means that you log in to thousands of servers, you have hundreds of username passwords, which you have to remember all of them, which is absolutely horrible in multiple ways because how many usernames, how many passwords, what about the security of all of these passwords? Right? This is too complex in many ways. Now, what happens in a decentralized federated system like Matrix is there are many of these decentralized servers, right? I may run a Matrix server, you may run a Matrix server, Matrix itself may run a Matrix server. The beauty is you can choose any server that works for you, right? If none of the server works for you, chuck it, run your own server. While the argument is that running a server, managing cloud and all is extremely technologically heavy. I am not a technology person. I completely understand. That is exactly why a lot of technology communities step up and run many of these services, right? Now, pick any of the server that works for you. Let's say I choose to create an account in this server. This user has an account in this server, and this user has an account in this server, right? Now in this case, if I have to talk to this user, I don't have to create an account in this server. I can use my account in this and still talk. The servers each will talk to itself and then transmit the message back, right? This is called a decentralized in terms of everybody can run their own servers. Federated meaning from any server, any user can talk to a user in some other server. A beautiful example of this is our emails, right? I'm sorry. Just like how, for example, let's say you have a Proton mail and let's say you have a Yahoo mail, how without creating an account in Yahoo, you are able to send an email from one provider to another. Emails are a beautiful example of decentralized federated systems, right? Just like how emails work, here also a decentralized federated chatting systems also work. So that's how centralized, decentralized, and decentralized federated function.
Right. So that's cool actually. Decentralized is a system you get a lot of control on a very smallest part, but centralized you are obliged to one centralized controller. So that's cool.
Exactly.
But yeah. So but the real question is that why me being a user of a normal simple messaging app should worry about whether it is centralized or decentralized. As long it does send a message from me to my friend, I don't see any other importance. Like, why should I worry that it is a centralized one or a decentralized one? Because it adds up to the points to in my choices. Okay, I am a little technical person. I get that and I understand. But someone who is not will never know something like this. So why should someone worry about it being centralized or decentralized?
There are many reasons on why you should really care about centralized and decentralized. I would like to categorize them on three things. The first thing I like to categorize is as one, in terms of centralized costs, right, and two, in terms of centralized control, and three, in terms of centralized infrastructure. Now, these three are very important problems for us to consider. We'll go one by one. When you're talking about centralized costs, what is important for us to understand is, now when we say that, oh, Signal is a non-profit, Signal is good for privacy, let's all use Signal. The question really is, we are not paying again for Signal, right? Many of us are not even paying a penny for Signal. Now imagine just India alone even using Signal, right? Let's ignore the rest of the world. Let's just say 130 crore population of India is using Signal. What is the amount of cost you need to run the service? I understand messages are not stored on the server and all of that, but you still need servers, right? Servers which can receive at least one message from all the 130 crore people at least every 5 seconds, right? Now, what is the cost that you need to, again, invest in infrastructure and the cost that it directly correlates to? It is very wrong on us to just transfer it to one small community and say, you handle all the costs, right? And I don't care about it. You handle all the cost. I want everything free. Free, I mean here, free of cost. It's just not fair. One. The second problem is, what if now that infrastructure goes down? We will again have to go find someone else, some other service that has same amount of privacy, same amount of security, same amount of everything, and then again create an account there. The chats in this service is lost in the chat in other service. You again have to restart. It's just complications after complications that keeps coming the moment you go centralized, right? And the very fundamental question that we should all be asking is, when everything is centralized, what is stopping from Signal from going rogue tomorrow? Right? What will you do if Signal also starts collecting data on their server and starts sharing data? You cannot do anything, right? We'll find another alternative to Signal. We'll probably be organizing yet another talk saying, is X the alternative to Signal, right? Until we keep finding yet another X, yet another alternative, yet another alternative. And the very fundamental of these whole yet another alternative is the idea of centralized, right? Why? Because everything is dependent on one specific protocol, everything is dependent on one specific server, everything is dependent on one specific client. The moment you deviate out of it, it won't work, right? It doesn't work out at all. And also it's important for us to understand in terms of centralized control. Now, the moment everything is centralized, this community of people, right now it is the Signal community, they are going to have pressure from all the governments, left, right, center, saying disable this account, disable that account, don't let this person talk to that person, that thread, this is not okay, that is not okay. Are we asking 50, 60 people to handle all of this? Right? And then you have compliance issues. Every country has its own privacy laws, its own compliance needs. How is it that we are expecting one small community to handle everything, right? Now, the moment we transfer all of this to one small community, now this community will have to scale. This community needs large sets of policy experts. This community needs large set of legal experts. This community needs large set of infrastructure experts, technical experts. And when we keep on saying that you keep scaling, and I'm not going to give you money, how is that scalable? How is that functionable? How is that workable? Right? And all we have to do tomorrow is hope that some attacker do not come on the internet and just take Signal service down, right? Signal has been facing issues for the past 4 to 5 days. I'm not blaming Signal, right? I mean, I've been following their technical updates. They've been beautifully, literally sleepless nights they've been working to keep up with the amount of change that's coming in. But now let's imagine they scale up to let's scale up at least 20x, 30x. And then after 2 months, we feel that, oh, none of my friends are still here. I'll go back to WhatsApp. It's very tough to scale down infrastructure. It's easy to scale up, right? It's very tough to scale down, which means that until all of that happens, they'll have 10x the cost, right? And Signal, again, being an NGO or an organization, a donation run organization, will not have the monies to it, right? On the other hand, when we say a decentralized ecosystem, we are not transferring the rights, control, cost to one community. We are now starting to distribute it across hundreds of communities, right? Every country can run 10, 20 communities of their own who are compliant to their local country's needs, who adhere to their own country's privacy policies, right? People can run servers on their own laptops. They don't even probably need a central community to take care of it. It's okay. It's okay if my messages come to me when I am online. What is wrong? Why should I keep getting that notification saying, hey, someone messaged you, someone messaged you, someone messaged you, right? If it's super urgent, people will just call, right? It's not really that complicated. So it's not a question. And also it's very important for us to understand this analogy. If centralization was so comfortable, why do we even have so many countries? Why do we have so many states? We can just say that the whole world can be one country, the whole world will have one leader, and we can be comfortable, right? It doesn't work like that, right? We humans as a society are built on decentralization. It's just that we conveniently forget it when it comes to digital platforms because, I don't know, for hundreds of reasons. The most important reason is we don't care, right? and it's important for us morally, ethically, environmentally, to put trust back on communities and not on corporates again.
Right. I like the analogy of country. And yeah, I understand how assuming a centralized to be a big bubble, as the bubble grows, it's vulnerable to blast someday. So decentralization, I think by design, is to give the control back to its own users, not at one place. So that's cool. So you also mentioned metrics. How can someone get started on metrics?
What is important for us to understand is Matrix is a protocol, right? The implementation of Matrix is called Synapse. For the technologically savvy people, go read what is Synapse and how you can run your own server. For the non-technologically savvy people, there are so many communities that are running this Synapse installation for everybody to commonly use, right? And one such community is the community that built Matrix itself. It's called Element. So the website for them is element.io, right? That is a community that is currently running it. And one of the most beautiful things about Matrix is you don't need a phone number, right? One of the biggest problems I see with Signal is you requiring to have one, a smartphone, and two, a phone number. Without these two, you can never access Signal, right? Matrix, on the other hand, does not care about it. All it requires you to have access to is a web browser on a laptop, desktop, old computer, right? Whatever it is, and you can talk to anyone. So for the non-technical people, element.io is a good start. I understand in decentralization also this is centralized, but the reason I'm still suggesting this is good start. And tomorrow, let's say if you want to migrate from this instance to some other decentralized instance, you can just happily export your data, import it in another instance, all of your chat, messages, everything comes back, and then you can continue using it. I am suggesting this purely for all of you to get started, but please do not assume that, again, in decentralization, if you centralize everything, we still go back to the good old problems, right? This is a good starting point, but find a community around you who is willing to run Matrix for you and start using them.
Right. That's simple. So I think it's going to take a little more time for us to educate crowd about how decentralized systems work and how Matrix is beautiful the way it works. Not always fall for a shiny object lying around you. So let's turn our attention to what very common people ask questions when we try to educate them about data privacy, what Facebook does, all the things, all the famous things we've been talking about. So one of the very, very common questions, or at least I've been asked, is like, okay, so you're saying data privacy is important, and WhatsApp is ruining that for me. But I have been using WhatsApp since like 5 years, so it means my privacy is already lost. So I think it's no use if for me to now fix it, right? I just live with it.
This is a classic question. It's important to, I think it's important to quote Edward Snowden here. It's what Edward Snowden told was, if you say I don't have anything to hide and thus I don't care about privacy, it's as good as saying I don't care about freedom of speech because I have nothing to tell. The point always is not about, oh, what have I told so far. It's a question of tomorrow, if you want to tell something, do you have the right to tell or not, right? You may have compromised your privacy, but the real question that I think you should be asking yourself is, today, the amount of understanding of privacy that you have, was it the same amount of understanding that you had before? Is the most important and the fundamental question that you should be asking yourself. And in nearly all cases where I have tried to answer this question, the answer is a simple no. Before, I didn't even know there was a word called privacy, and now I know it, right? So now that you know it, why don't you take corrective actions on it, right? It's nothing wrong. So far, whatever your data you have already contributed, there are ways to revert the data, but even let's assume that it's impossible. It's okay, cut off data right now, right? And the more consistently you're going to keep contributing data as a compromise of privacy, right? I'm sorry. These companies are going to be consistently starting to collect more and more and more data, right? They're never going to stop because you never stopped. It's as simple as that. If you care about privacy, stop. don't care about it. Don't care about how much data has already been lost. While there are legal fights we can do to revert and delete all of this data, even if you assume the worst case of when none of this is possible, don't bother. Stop giving data right now, right? And the moment companies like Facebook and WhatsApp feel that they're not getting enough data, they will shut down, right? And companies like Facebook, I have no regrets in saying this, it's okay if they shut down. They're not contributing to any kind of a growth in this economy, right? They're just contributing to destruction after destruction in this economy. Take, for example, the scale at which they're spreading fake news in Malaysia, right? The scale at which they're forcing internet.org in Malaysia. There's no regret. I mean, companies like this are the ones who are recreating the slavery system in the digital economy, right? And companies like these have to be scrutinized left, right, center, preferably even shut down. I don't really mind telling that, right? But if you feel like you value your privacy more, stop giving data right now. It's never too late.
Right, it's never too late, indeed. Okay, so the next in famous, at least this is a tweet I found on Twitter. So people who migrated from WhatsApp to Signal. I don't know if they've uninstalled WhatsApp or had Signal also. So what they say is, okay, I have only privacy in Signal, but no one else. So there is this constant loneliness people find in this new apps because WhatsApp has grabbed a lot of limelight all the time.
Okay. This is actually a classic question, not really a classic question, a very common question that has been coming up in the recent days. Many people have asked me also about this. The very simple answer I give to them is, let's go back to 2008 or even 2010 when WhatsApp was created. You will probably find the same amount of users that you find today on Signal on your WhatsApp, or probably even less, right? We are talking about 12 years of a big corporate, right, going ahead and advertising left, right, center about its product, convincing all users to come in and create accounts, versus a small community which has been existing from way back in 2015 to 16, and to whom all of us just recognize them, and suddenly saying is they don't work, right? We never waited for the world to transform. We never talked about privacy to our friends and why should they care about it. We never talked about why WhatsApp is scary and why people should come out of it. All we expected was I will install Signal, I will get my phone number, and all of them should be there on Signal. Right? That's not a very fair ask at all, and that's close to impossible. I mean, who works like that? Nobody works like that, right? No community will ever be existing like that. Once all of us have recognized the service just now, just give it a little time. And first, let's show consistency of use, right? When we show consistency of use and when we go out and talk to more people saying, look, dude, you have to care about privacy because it's a fundamental right, that's when people will start transforming. In the whole world of free software and privacy, there is no company that's coming and that's going to invest billions of dollars in advertisements. It's people like you and me who care about privacy who are the advertisers of these softwares, right? It's our moral responsibility to go out and ensure that people are using the right alternatives. Let it be Matrix or let it be Signal, right? This answer remains the same.
Right. Okay, so I think this will be unfair if I you ignore the next question. Is that what is Telegram here? Where does the famous Telegram stand here between WhatsApp, Signal?
Oh yeah, the big elephant in the small room. Okay, Telegram, I honestly did not want to mention at all. For multiple reasons. One, Telegram does not have any form of encryption, right? And even the encryption that they claim about is not an industry standard encryption. It's an encryption that they implemented from themselves. Many cryptography auditors tested this encryption algorithm and was not greatly convincing answers that came out of these auditors, right? Apart from that, again, Telegram is a very centralized service. We're not paying for Telegram. And so far, if you read the Telegram website, it is Powell Drovo. I'm sorry if I'm spelling his name wrong. Who's the founder of Telegram? It is this founder who has been telling that it's my money that I'm investing in Telegram. Right? It's my wealth that I'm investing in Telegram. While the claims of Telegram are fair, acceptable, quite debatable, saying that we don't let governments take down servers, we will always ensure uptime, we will let you upload this huge file, lot of people, etc., etc. The very fundamental question is again these three things. Where is the money coming from? Why are you investing your personal money, that also at this scale, into the service, right? What is your takeaway? What are you trying to do? How have you really escaped all those centralized control problems, right? Even if you ignore all of this, the very fundamental question is, why are you investing your personal money into this service and what is your takeaway? Right? For a long time, Telegram never answered this, and then finally they've given an answer recently saying that they're also going to go the advertisements route, right? But they've made certain things very clear. They've told that one, we will be sending advertisements only on channels, public channels, not on private broadcast channels or groups or private messages. On the contrary, if you don't want these advertisements, you can pay Telegram and then use it, right? So they're going the paid model plus the advertisement subscriber model. Now, this is equally a problematic process because now what advertisements? How do you know which channel should have what advertisements in it, right? Is it the fact that I will identify my channels and I'll sell in this channel I want these advertisements, right? What happened to the people who work behind building the channel? Do they have the consent of these advertisements? What do the channel members get out of it? How much does Telegram get out of it? What is my payment as an advertiser? How do I measure my returns? There are like hundreds of questions that immediately come in when you talk about advertisements, right? On top of this, Telegram is a fully proprietary software and non-free software, which means that I don't know honestly what they do in the background, right? Both Matrix and Signal are fully free software. Signal, even if centralized, is a fully free software, which means I know what's running on the server, right? But in terms of Telegram, I don't know. I don't even understand what's happening. So how am I even going to trust Telegram? On what basis are we trusting Telegram? Right? So in my view, it's a very direct response. If someone is saying that yeah, I trust Telegram, it's as good as saying yeah, I trust Facebook. Right? I don't see them as any different. Telegram probably is a new fish that's coming in. Facebook was probably an older one. That's all the difference is. So stay away from Telegram if possible, and please do stay away from Telegram.
Okay, so yeah, I think the good features of Telegram of offered us was like the channel system, and it can hold a lot of thousands of people in a group, which WhatsApp nor Signal gives us. So I think it will be hard.
Matrix gives you that. Matrix gives you that.
Okay.
Don't worry, Matrix, decentralized, federated works.
Right, right. Okay. So yeah, so this are quite a good basic understanding of what is happening around and what should you bother about. So these are the questions I have. So let's keep the mic open to others. Anyone from YouTube is also, you can ask us any question here. We will try to answer you here right away. Even who in people who are on Classmeet, you can just switch on your mic and talk. Okay, Delphina posted a message. This might be historical, but I think it's important because unless we understand history and get the right insights, we will repeat the same mistakes. When it comes to emails, I thought I agree there is a lot of issue with how some corporations are monopolizing the market and great extent. Email works on open, federated, decentralized protocol like IMAP. POP and SMTP. There was a time when IRC was similar standards of internet chat. Why did IRC become less relevant now? What is different about Matrix and how can be sure it will be widely adopted like IRC?
Okay, Delphina, I made certain conscious choices when I was suggesting alternatives. There are two alternatives I did not mention. One is IRC and the other is XMPP. Right, both IRC and XMPP are at least 3.5 decades old systems that have worked and that have worked at beautiful scales, right? No questions at all. The reason I did not specifically pick these two examples was one, looking at the targeted users were majorly non-technical people. So I wanted a client where the user interface was usable, right? That was one of my primary criteria. The other primary criteria was built-in encryption. When we take IRC or XMPP, while there is beautiful support for encryption, it's not a built-in support to encryption, which means that you should know how to generate your private key, which is the absolute right way to do it. But you should know how to generate your encryption keys and import it in your XMPP clients. And if you use multiple devices, how do you now share your private keys? It starts getting a little more technologically challenging for normal non-technical users who do not have a lot of computer background, right? On the contrary, the reason I suggested Signal or Matrix and referred to Matrix especially is because one, there is built-in end-to-end encryption, which means that as a normal user, I don't have to understand specifically how Matrix protocol works, how encryption is there, where is my private key, because the modern end-to-end encryptions work slightly a little more different, right? The second reason I specifically picked Matrix over something else is for the fact that Matrix is not just a decentralized federated protocol, it's also a cross-platform or cross-protocol protocol. What it basically means is, now with Matrix, I can talk to IRC, right? IRC can talk to Matrix, Matrix can talk to IRC. Matrix can talk to XMPP, XMPP can talk to IRC. Matrix can talk to Signal, Signal can talk to Matrix, right? So Matrix was not just yet another implementation like IRC or XMPP. Matrix was supposed to be the protocol of protocols, right? Which is even more beautiful now because I can even, there's also Matrix Signal, Matrix WhatsApp bridge, right? Where they say that all my WhatsApp messages can come on Matrix, and my messages to replies can actually go through WhatsApp, right? So Matrix is the reason Matrix took the boom right now, unlike IRC or XMPP, is specifically for this reason. The way the protocol is designed, the way the protocol is designed interoperable with other protocols, right? And you can do the whole interoperability without still compromising your security or your privacy keys, because there is key exchange, there is end-to-end encryption, right? And this is what makes the whole thing beautiful.
That's interesting. I think Mohan wanted to unmute and talk. Or anyone who wants to share something or anything.
To clarify, are you saying if I have a matrix client like element.io, can I like directly communicate with someone who is only on Signal?
Yeah, there is a matrix signal bridge. So where, I mean, you also need to have a Signal account, which is kind of a limitation. I mean, which is also fair because Signal wouldn't otherwise allow you to talk to them, right? That would mean a violation of the terms. So assuming you have a Signal account, you can link your Signal account to Matrix, and the moment right after account creation, you don't need Signal anymore, right? I mean, Signal on your device or anything anymore. Then Matrix can link to Signal, and Signal can take it forward. But there is that small dependency on Signal account creation per se.
Thank you.
But also, Rafina, what is important for us to understand is this applies to IRC or XMPP also. You can't talk to, unless the IRC channel or XMPP chat is public, where anonymous messaging is allowed, you need to have an account. IRC has its own process, XMPP has its own process. You have to adhere to this process and then link your personal account to Matrix, and then you can establish the communication. That's always how it works.
Okay. Anyone has anything to say or ask?
Ram, if no one has a question, I was trying to see if you can, I think you've answered my question in terms of what makes Matrix great, but I'm still trying to understand why did IRC fade away? What was the fundamental issue, or is there something that was lacking? Because I felt like IRC and XMPP were so popular. Why did we suddenly move entirely toward proprietary protocols in the arena of instant messaging?
So when we go back to history and try to understand the instant messaging market and try to see how the whole thing worked and evolved, right? WhatsApp is XMPP. That's the beauty that is there. So what WhatsApp did basically was they took XMPP and they implemented XMPP with signals encryption, right? And WhatsApp has been very public about it. They have come to multiple conferences. They've talked about how they have reused XMPP and everything. But honestly, WhatsApp was a non-federated XMPP, right? They started shutting down federation, thereby ensuring that nobody else can talk to a WhatsApp user using XMPP. So eventually, upon Facebook acquisition and all, they started doing that. Now, on the history of why IRC faded away, IRC always had a niche market, a specific category of users who were always there. One, because for multiple reasons. One, IRC does not have persistent messages, right? For example, if you're offline and the user tries to send out a message to you, Unless you have a bouncer, your message is probably lost, right? I'm sorry. There were limitations like this to IRC, which made it not so a very common user savvy, right? And on top of that, the clients that came for IRC were equally slightly technically savvy, which meant that you had to have certain understanding of IRC to know how to use IRC. Again, the same applied with XMPP, but XMPP actually scaled. Even when the Diaspora's implementation came in, Diaspora came with a built-in XMPP, which they use for messaging and everything. So XMPP still exists. There is a website called Quicksy, quicksy.im, QUICKSY.im, I think, who still offer XMPP as a service using your phone number, right? You can give your phone number, they'll send you an OTP, you can verify it. You have the usual XMPP-based contact discovery, you can have your encryption and everything. And interestingly, Kerala government also recommended for, I think, some of the common use cases. Now, why did XMPP fade away is, I don't think it really faded away. It's just that when Matrix came up, Matrix was a slightly better and a superior protocol. And it slowly started taking XMPP inside it, right? So, which is why you have the XMPP Matrix bridges. The XMPP community still works extensively with the Matrix community. So, you started having a better version of the protocols. The same with IRC. There are so many Matrix channels which integrate with IRC's public channel. So, which means that you can be on IRC, post a message, the message will come to Matrix. So, they started. The conversation started going towards interoperability than one specific protocol taking control of the whole thing, right? And that is where things got more beautiful. Okay, I quickly wanted to mention this. This whole problem of centralized services, privacy that we have been talking about is not just limited to WhatsApp. But there are certain very, very elementary measures that you can take. I welcome everyone to take a screenshot of this if you want. But this is a very, very early presentation. Please use the alternative systems, right? Instead of using Google Chrome, please stop using Google Chrome. It's equally privacy violating in everything you do. And start using Firefox with these add-ons, right? Firefox, again, a fully free software web browser, and these add-ons that I've recommended are also fully free software add-ons. With this, you gain a decent level of privacy compared to using Google Chrome. If you're using YouTube, instead of opening youtube.com, if you're on a mobile version, there's a software called NewPipe, which you can use to watch YouTube. Or if you're on a laptop or a desktop, there's this website called InVidious, which you can use to watch videos of YouTube. You can normally, just like how you would do on YouTube, on both these things, you can search for a video, you can watch it, everything just works the same, nothing changes. Instead of using emails on your browser, try to use Thunderbird or K9 Mail as email clients, because when you use a web-based email, your mouse movements, everything is also tracked. But when you use these clients, all of this is cut off, right? If you're looking for alternatives to Facebook, Twitter, all of these so-called great social medias, there is Mastodon, Plamora, GunoSocial. Again, all of these are decentralized, federated social medias, which means if you have an account in Mastodon, you can follow someone in GunoSocial. If you have an account in GunoSocial, you can follow someone in Plamora, right? It's beautifully decentralized, federated systems. Pick whatever, these are all implementations of the same protocol. Pick whatever UI works for you better and feel free to use that UI. Right? I personally use Mastodon. In case of chat, I highly recommend you to use Matrix or any decentralized federated chat system over any form of centralized chat system. You're free to use XMPP, you're free to use IRC, but Matrix, but try to stay away from centralized systems as much as you can because of multiple reasons I've already listed above. And please don't think that you can remember your passwords. Don't think that you can set super solid passwords. Obviously, you cannot. There is another free software that can help you manage your passwords, which is called Bitwarden. Again, a fully free software. They also offer a free account, but again, you're free to self-host it yourself. So please do that. Over to you, Ruchika, in case of no questions.
I don't see any questions on YouTube live streaming also. So if anyone has any questions over here, we can shoot soon.
Yeah, I think we have another 2 minutes, so we can take more questions.
Yeah. Just for the info, we are doing a same talk in Tamil also. That will be today evening. That is what time?
It's 3 to 4:30.
Yeah, 3 to 4:30. So all native Tamil speakers can understand the exact same thing in their own language. So you can share the link with your friends too.
We're also planning one in Kannada for Kannada native speaking speakers. We are yet to finalize the date. We'll soon announce the dates once we confirm everything with other speakers also. But if you think there are other languages in which you want us to do, just I think write to the Chigo team. They'll be, I think, more than happy to organize, find a speaker in that language and organize. I am just going to be doing it in English and Tamil. I think it's going to be other speakers who are going to be doing it in other languages. So yeah.
Uh, okay then. I think it's 11:30. We'll wind off. If anyone doesn't have a question, any questions?
I don't have a question, but a quick comment. I would thank you for the insights. And I think the greatest thing that I see is that Facebook and WhatsApp and other companies are actually making us as products and making money out of us, like you pointed out that statistic. So I think it is time that we as consumers start thinking that we should rather be paying with our cash rather than our personal data for these type of services. And it will be good if we can create a market for it. Maybe Chikuru Tech could provide some instant messaging services based on Matrix. I'm sure that as long as there's a scale of volume of business for that, maybe we can set up more cooperatives to do that. And I think that would be the right way to go forward rather than continuing to pay with our personal data.
That's something I've also been telling Chiguru folks to do. They're still debating, I think, internally to see how they can establish. I think their fundamental question is who's going to pay for it. But yeah, I think they're. I know them personally, so I know they're debating all of this internally. But yeah, Chiguru, I'm not sure if I can talk on behalf, but yeah, Chiguru is a workaround cooperative. So Chiguru works primarily on these domains that's listed out here. So in case if you think you have a technological consultation that's required on any of these topics, please do reach out to the Chiguru team. I think they're an amazing set of people on Free Software. Yeah, please do reach out to them. I'm pretty sure they can help you in some way or the other on free software, privacy, alternatives. They can happily help you out.
Right. Right, even a signal and metrics are started to prompt a message for donation. So I think it's a highly considerable thing we can start doing. Okay, then thanks for everyone, each one of you, to joining us here today. Hope it was informative. Try to talk about this to your family, friends, and let's spread the message around. So hope we'll see you. The Tamil speakers can join us in the evening also to listen to this same in Tamil. Okay then. Thanks everyone. We're going to wind this off. Okay.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye.